Live from the Clarity from Chaos studios, heard worldwide, it's Dave Campbell. On every episode, Dave and his guests explore, discuss, and work on solutions to some of life's biggest challenges. So, if you're ready, be prepared to be enlightened, amused, and even shocked by what you hear. And now, the real, the authentic, the one and only Dave Campbell.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Clarity from Chaos. I'm your host, Dave Campbell. If you're new to the show and would like to support it, hit the subscribe button on my podcast website at Substack. The site address is clarityfromchaos.substack.com. And while you're there, go out and hit the About tab at the top ribbon to see who the upcoming guest for the month will be. Now, I was sitting in my office today wondering why there is such a large chasm regarding the concept of trust with the people of this great country. Trust with the media, trust with our politicians, or anyone responsible for conveying the truth. One does not have to go back too far in time to see some of the causal effects. The Clinton corruption, Russiagate, and the J6 tribunal, to just name a few. Oops, I forgot the biggest one, COVID. Ideas, history, language, authority, and our social construct are actively being destroyed by people, and people don't know where to turn anymore, so they're just shutting down. We need to collectively stop being so damn complacent. Demand more from the media, demand more from our politicians. We need to start remembering they all work for us. Let's bring back some meaning to the word accountability. Now, to add just a little bit of joy to the conversation, I'd like to share a Bible verse, if you don't mind. And this is from Psalms chapter 46, 1 through 6. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth should change, and though the mountains should slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the whole holy dwelling places of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations made an uproar. The kingdoms tottered. He raised his voice, and the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Abraham is our stronghold. Now, we were incredibly pleased to welcome to Clarity Miss Corinne Clifford. Corinne is the voice of sat123.com, a provider of emergency communications tool. In addition, she's an independent journalist, member of the White House Press Corps, and she is the founder of Informed News Network, a platform dedicated to delivering unfiltered news to the consuming public. Welcome to the show, Corinne.
Thank you so much, Dave. There is so much to talk about.
Oh God!
Tell me what you want to start with.
Well, let's just start with the broad brush, Corinne. The thoughts on manipulating of the truth around it, and it's coming from so many avenues. I think people are just overwhelmed.
I mean, I think that that's been a problem we've had since the dawn of time, the manipulation of the truth, because, all of our brains think so much differently that sometimes you don't even really know what the truth is.
Yeah.
But at the core level, I just interviewed the mother of the alleged pipe bomber. She says her son is innocent. Potentially, the FBI right now is saying he's guilty. I mean, in the end, how are we ever going to know what the truth is? Allegedly, he confessed. I don't think that he actually confessed. I think that he's getting set up because he is a 30-year-old black man who lives in his mother's basement and he's on the spectrum. He has autism. The way he walks is very specific. He wears very thick glasses on his face. So he would have to have contact lenses if he did this. And especially with the timing, he did it January 5th. He allegedly put the bombs in front of the DNC and the RNC in Washington, D.C. on January 5th. And then January 6th happened. So if he did do it, I don't think that he acted alone. But of course, his mother, Delicia, Cole says he didn't do it. And so, I really have compassion for mothers. But what is the truth here? Let's say he did actually do it, but he was coerced to do it online by a
Yeah.
Fed or CIA or Fed.
Yeah.
Or what about like some wacky foreign spy? There's
Yeah.
so many foreign spies paid by Chinese Communist Party et al., et cetera, et cetera. There's so many foreign spies. Then is it really his fault if he's mentally ill and he was radicalized online? So we're really not getting to the core truth of anything, honestly.
No, and having grown up through the JFK assassination and everything else, the whole thing smells like an Oswald to me, Corinne. That after all of this time, all of a sudden somebody pops up and they've been arrested. Um, I have to agree with you. I think either somebody has groomed him, somebody else was involved in all of this. There's just more to it. And what bothers me is the simple fact that all we get is this shoveled BS. We get shoveled BS from the DOJ, we get shoveled BS from the FBI. And like I said in my monologue, I don't think anybody believes any of it. And the sad part about this is by screaming chicken all the time and doing all of this, we've now created an environment where we don't believe a damn thing.
I interviewed one of the assassins because I interviewed James Files, he's on his deathbed and he says that he's one of the 10 assassins that were sent to the grassy knoll to the Dallas, Texas area to kill Kennedy in 1963. And he says he was paid by the United Fruit Company, which was a front for the CIA. And he said he was trained by the US military and he was trained by the mafia to be a perfect shooter. He said that was one of the people involved with assassination of Che Guevara. There's so many sides to every story, and
Right.
we're just not getting all of it because
No.
they want it that way. There have been studies for dozens of years to how to scramble the facts and scramble our mind, and the deep state CIA and the spy agencies around the world have been doing this for years and years. So they want to keep us confused. They want to keep us in chaos. They don't want us to know the truth. And that's
No.
why independent journalists like me and people that I know who are real, who are not bought, sold, and paid for, or bribed and or extorted. I almost got extorted about 3 times. So the bottom line is that we really deserve to know the truth. And that's what our founding fathers founded America on: free press and the US Constitution.
Yeah, well, I don't think we have free press anymore. What we have is a propaganda generating machine that, part and parcel was created by individuals, to basically spread this BS that's out there. And the thing that comes to mind quickly is COVID. COVID COVID was not anywhere near what anybody believed, but it was not only the BS was spread here, it was spread globally. Which tells me that there's the little thinking guy sitting someplace that's come up with all of this crap, because you can't tell me that the country in Austria has the same talking points as the people in Washington or the people in California or the people in Japan, but they all had the same talking points. So somebody was orchestrating this whole damn thing.
Exactly. So who's orchestrating it? In the case of
Right.
the alleged pipe bomber, there is a woman in the DOJ who's a holdover from the Biden regime. She's never been fired. We've exposed her to President Trump. Her first name is Jacqueline. I don't want to say her last name because I
Right.
don't want any of us to get sued. But I'm just saying that there are people in the DOJ who are holdovers from the Biden regime. And this particular woman framed and made sure that a lot of J6ers got arrested when they were just praying outside the U.S. Capitol. They
Right.
shouldn't have been arrested. The DOJ picked on the weakest of weak people for January 6th because my richer friends who were there January 6th inside the Capitol never got arrested because they could afford the lawyers and they knew how to handle the law. The DOJ under the Biden regime intentionally picks on the weakest of weak. And that's why the story of the pipe bomber is so interesting, because they're not asking for money. money. The pipe bomber's mom said they don't need to raise any money for the lawyers. And the pipe bomber's father, Brian Cole Sr., is a very successful bail bondsman in over 20 states. He is a black rights activist. So this is very interesting
Yeah.
because there is a deeper situation happening here. I don't think the father set the son up, but I think the father knows what's going on. And they got the son, an incredible lawyer from New York, a Democrat, of course, named John Shorman. But the next court day was supposed to be Monday, December 15th. They pushed it to December 30th because they knew or they thought that none of us would be in Washington, D.C. But they didn't know that I have some secret weapons of people who will be in the courtroom that day. But the courtroom doesn't even really matter. What matters is
No.
where is the footage? And the J6 committee admitted just this last week that a lot of the footage from the pipe bomber has been disappeared.
Right. Exactly. So, and that kind of rolls myself into the whole accountability thing, Corinne, that everybody sitting on that damn panel, that tribunal, whatever you want to call it, ought to be held accountable for all of this, because they including Pelosi, knew damn good and well what was going on. And either they were informed or part and parcel to the whole damn thing. And, there's been evidence that has been scrubbed from the public domain, all kinds of things. And you had people rotting in jail without even getting a day in court. And for some reason, we're not holding Raskins and all of the rest of those individuals accountable for that. And to me, that's the whole reason why the flyover country, if you will, is basically washing their hands of all of this crap, because they know it's all BS.
I confronted Jamie Raskin last year on the last day that Congress was in session in December, and he called me a cult member. He said I'm part of a cult. And I
Yeah.
was just like, what are you talking about, Jamie Raskin? There's something really wrong with many of the members of Congress. But to call me a cult member because I'm MAGA, I'm pro-Trump, that is ridiculous. I'm
Yeah.
definitely not a cult member. And so we just have a lot of really bought, sold, paid for, potentially a
Yeah.
lot of very blackmailed and bribed people in U.S. Congress. And that's the problem, because Congress can sanction the corrupt judges. Congress can put legislation to do whatever they want to do, and they're not getting anything done. So
No.
the fact that our Congress is blackmailed and or bribed is a big problem. And I wish that the FBI, breaking news is that Dan Bongino is quitting the
Right.
FBI this week.
Yep.
And that is, sad to me. Just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't like quitters. I don't think Dan should quit. I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene should quit. I think they should stay and fight, 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 like President Trump told us to do. And I think Dan Bongino is going to get his show back and, tell us some stuff. But in the end, he's not going to tell us anything.
No, because, that's all that's doing is kicking the can down the road, Corinne. That's all the hell that's doing. What he needs to do is put his big boy pants on and go after a lot of this crap that he's talked about. Instead of walking away from it. I don't know the causal reasons that he's walking away. But the stuff that we're talking about here, he ought to grab with both hands and drive it to completion. And
we
without,
would all stand up for him.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, it's just, and I can understand why people are so maddened about all of this, is because they're just not seeing any accountability, and they know damn good and well that if they had done something like this, they'd be rotting in jail right now. You have these seditious congressmen that are doing this crap, that have basically told the military, the entire military complex in our country, to ignore unlawful orders, but they never once explained what an unlawful order was. And the unintended consequences of all of that are extreme, because you cannot have people in the field, infantry on the ground, questioning what they're told to do. It just doesn't work. It does not work at all. It gets people hurt. It gets people killed. It just goes on, and it's unconscionable that those people, those Congress people, have not been held accountable one way or the other.
Just this week, an embarrassing congressperson from Michigan is trying to introduced legislation in the House of Representatives to ask that Pete Hegseth be formally impeached, which is ridiculous. And then another congressperson from the same corrupt state of Michigan right now. It's corrupt because obviously Islamic Democrats have taken over Michigan. But the bottom line is that they're asking for the impeachment of Secretary Kennedy. This is never going to happen. It's never going to go through. And when I investigate both these Congress people, I'm not even going to give them the glory of saying their names. They both owe money on their congressional campaigns. So a lot of these Congress people are introducing legislation because they get paid to do it. It goes nowhere and it just wastes more taxpayer dollars. So I
Exactly.
think we need to defund Congress.
Oh, I completely agree. And I've said for years that Congress needs to eat their own dog food, right? If they enact legislation, it needs to include them because, unless people have been paying attention, Congress is excluded from a lot of the crap that they impose on the public, right? The healthcare system, the healthcare issues, the retirement issues, and it just goes on and on. And then at the end of the day, you end up having a barista like AOC that was making nothing. And several years later, she becomes a multimillionaire.
Exactly.
How does the hell does that happen?
And I
Because
asked her, and she's like, "Oh, I don't have any money." I said, "Are you richer than me, AOC?" She's like, "I don't have any money," but we all know she's got about 13 million plus. And Ilhan Omar has like 30 million. She's
right,
got at least 1.5 million alone just in Tesla stock. How did someone who's from Somalia, doesn't even speak English, comes to the United States, they're in debt $300,000, and now they end up with 1.5 million in Tesla stock? You don't
yeah,
have that. I don't have that. Our your
right,
viewers don't have that. So who's giving that to these people? And why isn't the FBI under Dan Bongino and Kash Patel telling us what is going on here?
yeah. So that right there, what you just said is the entire crux, is the root cause of what's going on here. Is because, and I think the world of Kash Patel, but why aren't they going after these people? Why the hell are they not going after? I've seen the memos of the Clinton Foundation that was basically steered into the toilet because McCabe didn't want to investigate him in 16. And it just goes on and on and on, Corinne. And people people understand that if it were them that was doing it, they'd be up to their eyeballs in going to jail and God knows what. And these people just keep right on rolling. And the problem is nobody is holding them accountable. And I truly believe we the people need to understand it as we the people, that these people work for us. They're not this. It's not the other way around. That we don't work for them. We vote them into office to represent us, and that's not happening. So
And it's very dangerous because we the people who made sure that President Trump got a second round in the Oval Office, a lot of people are going to turn in Trump's base if he doesn't have Pam Bondi and Kash Patel start taking major action. Because
right,
if we don't win the midterms in 2026, if we don't win the 2028 presidential election on our side, then you and I will be arrested. You and I will be the
yeah,
carnage of this mess. So it's very personal and it's very serious. There have been people who have said that, next year, if Pam Bondi isn't fired by President Trump, that they're going to start protesting every day in front of the White House. So let's just see what happens. I don't think that President Trump really understands how serious it is because I think that the people around him keep him living in a glass bubble. And that's why journalists like me, potentially, I'm a lady, I'm proper, I'm very well educated, I'm very sophisticated, but we are very important to keep in the White House so we can make sure that President Trump understands what his base wants, what the
right,
America First MAGA base wants, that got President Trump his second round in the Oval Office, and we want paper ballots and hand count the vote. We want President Trump to arrest these members of Congress that we pay their salaries for. And when they've misused we pay for their travel, we pay their salary, pay their health care, we
Yep.
pay 20-person staff. If they've misused that, they need to be taken down, potentially arrested, but taken out of office. It's time to do that and clean the swamp. President Trump promised that to us. And I think that every time he tries, he gets such bad backlash from the corrupt judges. But there's going to be a point when the military can step in and we don't
Right.
have to use the judges anymore.
No, and I think, at least I'm hoping, and to your point, it's the filibuster number one. If they don't change the Senate rules and start to codify a lot of this stuff, you and I are going to be in trouble, because there's been a lot of effort to explain the corruption and the, just malfeasance, I guess, of government around NGOs and everything else that Elon Musk brought out. If we don't codify that and fix it, that's number one. Number two, if we don't change the filibuster and start implementing a lot of the things that Trump is trying to do, all we're going to see in the next 2 years, if we lose the midterms, is nothing but, people marching in the streets to impeach Trump. That's all we're going to see, because we know the mainstream media, and I'm not talking about the independent media, but I'm talking about the NBCs, the MSNBC, all of those idiots. All they're going to be doing is screaming for somebody to do something about Trump. And if we don't have the ability to stop it, that's what's going to happen.
Well, the mainstream media obviously has an agenda, and it's a
Right.
globalist agenda. And honestly, I'm in the White House with them all day long. They don't even understand that they have an agenda, but I have seen them change. Even Caitlin Collins actually likes Trump, honestly. So the bottom line is that these people are just playing these roles in the mainstream media. And that's why we have to stop watching the mainstream media, because it's basically, unless it's like straight breaking news, like the shooting that just happened in
Right.
Brown University, that's important, straight breaking news. But all the other stuff is just manipulation and it is fake news because it comes from their bosses at higher levels who are globalists who have an agenda that's not America first. If you're not watching America First news, you shouldn't be watching it because it's going to mess with your brain and we're not getting to the real truth. And I'm very concerned about, the future of the United States of America because we all have to be united. And on our side, many people are not united.
No, not at all. So let me shift gears now that we've kind of hashed over all the complaints and stuff. Talk about Sat 123, because I don't think a lot of people know about Sat 123, Corinne.
I think it's super important to understand that an emergency can happen at any time. I exist in big cities. I'm not in a farm. I'm not camping. I hike occasionally, but not that much. I'm always in a big city. And so when Sat 123, when I started getting products from Sat 123, I was like, why do I need a bulletproof backpack? Why do I need a satellite phone? Why do I need Faraday bags? Uh, Even the Starlink, they sell the Starlink with the
Right.
best customer service based in the United States of America. The company Sat123 is owned by American. And so the bottom line is that President Trump wants us to support American companies, but it's deeper than that because I've used every single product I've ever gotten from Sat123. Just this January, I was in the Palisades fires. I used the satellite phone. If it wasn't for the satellite phone, my car probably would have burned. I use the bulletproof backpack in DC pretty much as every day when I go in and out of the White House because, as you saw the day before Thanksgiving, 2 National Guards were shot. Shots can be fired at any time. You just saw what happened at Brown University.
Right.
So important to have a bulletproof backpack, Faraday bags to put your keys and credit cards in, especially when you're traveling, so people don't steal them, and so much more. You need everything on this website. I'm telling you, you need a solar powered generator just in case your electricity gets turned off. I
Right.
will personally guarantee that if you don't use the products you buy, I will give you your money back because let me tell you, you will use them because emergencies are happening and they do happen. And if you have a boat, if you have a ranch, if you live on a dead end road, only 10% of the world has cellular phone towers.
Right.
And so that's why the Starlink is critical. And you want the customer service because when you first start using the Starlink, it's really a little bit difficult to understand. So you want the customer service that Sat123 gives you. And it's about to be Christmas. This makes the best Christmas gifts, especially
Yeah.
for men like you who you just don't know what to buy them or people who have
Right.
everything.
Right.
Just go to Sat123. You already have the perfect shipping. It's the perfect timing for the holiday season. If they use my name, Corinne, they can negotiate a deal. And let me tell you, the satellite phone's like what, $80 a month. You get rollover minutes if you use my name. And basically, I've used it and it saved my life in January. So I will never go anywhere without a satellite phone.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably that's for people that are looking for stuff for Christmas, and then obviously this show's going to show before Christmas. I think that's absolutely true, and it's funny because I talked to my wife uh, about a getting something that I think she should be carrying, and I'll leave it at that. With her every day, yeah, even though I live south of a major city, it's just important to me to understand that she has the ability to affect or defend herself in case of a situation. So I understand you're writing a book. Let's spend a few moments talking about the new book you have coming out.
So I founded a field of journalism about 7 years ago. It's called Active IRL, Active IRT. It's in real life, in real time journalism where you don't edit. You just take the raw footage and you don't mess with it. You don't edit. You don't add AI. You don't put anything glamorous on it. It's very, very real, harsh news that is raw and it's hard for people to handle, especially because AI is getting so ingrained in us. You know what I
Right.
mean? We're gonna be
Well,
inconsequential soon. They can just have
that's
AI.
because we're lazy, Corinne. You know,
I'm not lazy, but AI is gonna take over.
we're allowing something else to do our thinking and our writing for us. And because in writing, there's a elongated process, right? Of putting stuff down on paper, of writing, of editing, of writing, editing, of writing. And so we turn to the lazy alternative, which is to allow AI to do all of the damn heavy lifting, which is kind of emblematic of everything else that we're doing, right? We're allowing somebody else to do the heavy lifting because we're becoming too lazy to do it.
I mean, I don't use AI ever, and so I really made it a rule not to use AI. And I think that the next generation should not use AI because it's going to get out of control. And I think the next generation should make sure that they have a plot of land with some water, a water source, and some food supply. Because I think we need to go back to our basics, and every American citizen should have like 6 to 10 children. Our population growth is at zero, and that's a national security tragedy. Just like the fact that, Secretary Kennedy has made it very clear that potentially 60% or less of our young men in America are even healthy enough to serve in the U.S. military.
Yeah.
That's a national security threat. So we have a lot of things going on. We need to get away from AI. We need to get away from the chemicals. It's just so simple, but we're not doing it because we
No.
have to make money and the major corporations want to use us to make the money to keep them going and going. That's why we've got to start. President Trump was trying to explain and CNN extorted it. President Trump was saying this year for Christmas, buy 2 or 3 dolls, but it's better if you buy dolls made in the United States of America.
Right.
President Trump is trying to tell people that we need to go back to products and companies made in America and be America first.
Yeah, absolutely. So when is the book going to come out, Corinne?
I mean, I have a ghostwriter, thank God, helping me because otherwise it would just be so jumbled because
Right.
I have so much to throw into it, but also I have to be careful that I don't get sued. And I have certain family members, including my own daughter, who says, Mom, if you put me in the book, I'm never talking to you again. So it's like a little bit tricky here because I got
Yeah,
to take her out of the
yeah.
equation. I'm not allowed to talk about her. So I would never hurt that relationship in any
Oh,
way,
heavens no.
obviously.
Heavens no.
So, but it's a super interesting situation because, we do have a journalism school at USC and people aren't learning real journalism. They're learning
Yeah.
corporate, how to work for a corporation. I want people to be independent journalists like me and figure out how to fund their own journalism so they get the real truth to the public.
I agree. I agree. And I quite frankly, Corinne, I think that's our only salvation is that more and more people like yourself come into the business and start applying those ethics to what they're doing. Because you see all you see, quite frankly, on the TV are a bunch of shills that are just basically speaking whatever they're told to discuss, and it doesn't represent anything. It's just it's just hot air, quite frankly. Social media connections. How can people reach out to you on social media, Corinne?
So you have to go to my X account at Corinne Clifford, CorinneClifford, 2 N's and 1 F. And listen, I use X because I've got Elon Musk's team. If I get censored there, I just send them a DM and they help me because I get a lot of death threats. I get a lot of
Oh,
censorship. I get a lot of shadow banning. And, Elon has to understand that within his X company, he's got white hats and dark hats. He's got good employees and bad employees, just like in the DOJ, just like in the FBI, just like in all the agencies. And that's the real war we're fighting. It's a
right.
war from within. So we potentially could be headed to a non-violent, hopefully, civil war because people are so divided. And I really want us to find common ground and unite because that's what the deep state wants. The real deep state is based in the United States of America. I think it's based in Colorado and Cheyenne Mountain. And they want us to go into little tiny tiffs, civil wars around
Well,
America so they can keep control.
yeah, and I think COVID was the test run on all of that.
I do too.
And people will look at me like I just fell off the egg truck, but I believe that COVID was the test run for how they could control and manipulate people off the end of the pier. And
So prepare.
yeah, and those people that didn't swallow the Kool-Aid, they were immediately canceled and shuffled off into a little small area where nobody talked to them anymore. So, I at least that's my thought, and people can disagree with me if they like. I would love somebody to talk to me about the attributes and the greatness of COVID because I am not seeing it. So, but I would encourage anybody that if they would love to talk to me about it, feel free because I'm completely open about it. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's a conversation that I want to plan and have again um, as we move into the midterms because I love your perspective on everything and your authenticity. So, it like I said, it's been a pleasure, Corinne.
God bless you and may God bless your audience and may God bless America.
Thank
We
you.
need to place God first and then America and then our families. It's so
I
important.
I think so too. So take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, and stay safe. And we'll talk to you in the new year.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful day, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more Clarity from Chaos shows on demand, go to clarityfromchaos.buzzsprout.com or send Dave an email at info@clarityfromchaos.com for information on previous shows. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Twitter, or Google Podcast. Until next time, please remember, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Be well, everyone.